So I think there's the item space maybe more so than other spaces we play in, or that, some of the segments, it seems to be a little bit more fragmented, right? It's fairly new, right? For as far as people trying to
Right.
really double down and focus here. And e-com, like I think was a big driver of that. But that was more of a big driver of like my extended attributes, right? My extended descriptors, so I can have it on my website, maybe, buy online, pick up in store, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But what, where we are coaching our retailers to start, and where we look at our partners to help with too, is how do you actually back that up? Because you just like building a house, you can't, if you don't have a good foundation, you can't really go add on that second, third story, whatever it is you might want to add on there. And so when we look at people that are doing this really well, that core information, it all started with, there was a few standard bodies, right? GS1 has some standards out there. There is the GDSN data pools that exist out there, right? But what actually ends up happening is a lot of those data pools, they only have like certain verticals that they play in, right? Like GDSN plays really, really heavy in like grocery, CPG, like those things. The GS1 standards, those were started by a lot of clothing retailers back in the day. And so they do really, really well in kind of soft lines. But as you have retailers now that are on a lot of different categories, so on and so forth, it does become like a little bit of disjointed experience, right? There's a lot of companies, movers and shakers in the space, as far as like, Syndigo came on the scene a few years ago, and they've made a bunch of acquisitions of a lot of different companies. There's a lot of people using Salsify as maybe their own internal PIM from a vendor side. But as you guys talked about, they don't maybe take on some of that translation capabilities of getting into the different retailers. So, there are a few of us out there, SPS Commerce included, that is looking at this as a holistic approach, right? There's only a certain number of suppliers that exist inside the ecosystem of a retailer, right? If you divide it in percentages, like 10 to 15% usually have their item information figured out, right? If you're a Target, the Pepsis, the Cokes, the P&Gs, right? They all do this for so many different retailers. They kind of have it figured out. But what are you doing with the long tail of those suppliers? And that's where the spreadsheet, the manualness comes into play. And that's really what we hear from our retail base, is like, there isn't really one thing there. So how can we help, take in whatever the suppliers have? If they're using Salsify, they're using Syndigo, they're using GDSN, whatever that might be, how can we sit in the middle and really help that retailer streamline that process into a PIM or into some other systems? It doesn't really matter to the end.